First tonight, the Child Sex Abuse Inquiries spent its final day looking into Nottinghamshire's care system. For 3 weeks now, we've heard harrowing testimony from a string of survivors who'd been abused by the very people supposed to be protecting them.
Well, there have been demands for resignations, revelations of systematic failings, and today, calls for changes in the law, with the inquiry hearing a series of recommendations. And the man who prompted the whole inquiry today received a formal thank you.
Well, our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball has been at every day of the inquiry and joins us now. Good evening, Jeremy.
Yes, Maurice, as you can see, they're already dismantling the inquiry room here. But what they've heard over the last 3 weeks could have far-reaching implications for a very long time to come. And today we heard just how some of the survivors have been profoundly affected. People who've been here, we heard, have been sectioned, have lost their home, have been threatened with having their kids taken off them. Another man we heard killed himself because he simply couldn't cope.
Well, good morning, everyone.
The final day of an inquiry that shone a light into the darkest corners of Nottinghamshire's care system. Horrific sexual abuse of children by the people who were supposed to protect them. There throughout a local MP who now wants the lessons to prompt changes in the law.
When kids behaved badly in the past, they ended up getting stuck in institutions, getting raped, violently abused. Countless cases of that because they were seen as the problem. Well, I still think that's going on today with kids being excluded from schools. Therefore, I think this is today's problem.
And today a final witness described how he'd been groomed and sexually exploited by older men. He was around 15 years old, a victim, but he was arrested and then jailed for committing sex offences.
I've been persecuted as an adult. It prevented me from having a family life. I was told that if I pleaded guilty, then I could go home sooner because I wasn't allowed to go home to my parents until the court case was over because they deemed that I would run away.
The inquiries heard how children at the Beechwood home were sexually abused by their carers over decades. Others were abused by foster parents, but they weren't believed. There was nowhere to turn. The system utterly failed them.
Too often social workers and others failed to pick up on signs that all was not well. When children did make disclosures of sexual abuse by their foster carers, far too often they were not believed. There was a consistent failure to think the unthinkable.
They have been covering it up since 2003!
And for Mickey Summers, praise today. The inquiry heard this angry crusade for justice brought the national inquiry to Nottingham. His lawyer read a powerful statement to the authorities on his behalf.
I do not trust you because on the long drive to Somerset, I was raped by that social worker to whom I had reported the abuse. You came to Nottingham a few weeks ago, and I urge you to come back to Nottingham in 18 months to see if your recommendations have been implemented and to see if anything has actually been changed. Let them know, Chair, that the sheriffs are coming back to town.
So I've had post-traumatic stress disorder meltdowns. I've suffered 2 heart attacks during this campaign. But my motto was that I'd rather die fighting than just lay down and surrender.
This inquiry's only scratched the surface, but the lessons learned could protect a new generation in care nationwide.
Well, absolutely, Jeremy, in 3 very difficult weeks of evidence. So what does happen now?
Well, everything we've heard here will be part of a big report. Today we heard those Nottinghamshire findings are due to be published next summer, and the inquiry team's been asked to make a whole range of recommendations, everything from changing the compensation system to making it much easier for kids in care to report abuse, and a number of calls today for much more money for those hard-pressed social care systems.
And what has been the reaction from the councils, Jeremy?
Well, they say, first of all, that there have been a lot of improvements since the time a lot of this abuse took place. First of all, improvements in training, also much smaller children's homes these days. They do accept, though, that a lot more needs to be done. The County Council this evening has announced it's going to change the way that it handles compensation claims. Today, the City Council said that it needs to look at everything from counselling services to the way it keeps records. And this is all a response, really, to what victims' barristers today described as systematic failings that were bordering on the criminal.
Jeremy, in London for us, thank you very much.